Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a book that has profoundly impacted millions of lives and truly reshaped the way many of us think about money. Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. If you've ever felt stuck in the financial rat race or wondered how some people seem to effortlessly build wealth while others struggle, then this summary is for you. We're going to break down the most powerful lessons from this classic, giving you a comprehensive understanding of its core principles. So, let's jump right in and uncover the crucial distinctions between the rich and the poor mindset. The core distinction that drives everything in the book is that the poor and middle class work for money, while the rich have their money work for them. Kiyosaki contrasts the conventional advice of his highly educated poor dad, who valued a good salary, security, and a government job, with the unconventional wisdom of his rich dad, who emphasized the critical importance of acquiring assets that generate income. The former group trades their most precious resource, time, for a paycheck, effectively being an employee in someone else's system. The latter group focuses intently on building or buying things like businesses, real estate, or stocks that put money into their pocket every month, even when they're sleeping or not actively working. This is the financial pivot point, getting off the treadmill of trading labor for cash and stepping on to the passive income generation. This distinction leads directly to what Kiyosaki considers the most crucial and often misunderstood lesson: the clear difference between an asset and a liability. This concept is deceptively simple, but it's where the financial struggles of the middle class often begin, precisely because they confuse the two. A simple, actionable definition is this: an asset is anything that puts money into your pocket, a cash flow generator. This could be a rental property, dividend stocks, or a profitable small business. Conversely, a liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket, a cash flow drain. For the vast majority of people, their primary residence, which they think is their biggest asset, is actually a significant liability because of the constant outlays for the mortgage, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, and utility bills. The entire financial strategy of the wealthy is to meticulously focus their energy and capital on acquiring genuine, income-producing assets while minimizing their liabilities. Another core concept is understanding the cash flow patterns of the different financial classes. Kiyosaki provides simple diagrams illustrating this perfectly. The poor have a very basic cash flow pattern. Income comes in, and expenses immediately take it out. They live paycheck to paycheck with no money left over to invest. The middle class has a slightly more complex but equally destructive pattern. Their income increases, but their liabilities, like a large house mortgage, car payments, and credit card debt, also increase, leading to a phenomenon he calls the rat race. They are trapped because the moment their income rises, their expenses immediately rise to meet it. The rich, on the other hand, structure their cash flow so that their income is primarily channeled into buying assets, and those assets then generate the income that covers their expenses, creating a self-sustaining cycle of wealth accumulation. Now, you can't fully grasp this concept without understanding the importance of financial literacy, which Kiyosaki stresses is absolutely missing from our traditional education system. His poor dad, the highly educated one, taught him to study hard to get a good job. His rich dad, the successful entrepreneur, taught him how to understand balance sheets and income statements. It's not about how much money you make, which is a huge focus for the middle class. It's about how much money you keep and how hard that money works for you. Financial literacy is the ability to read the numbers and understand how assets and liabilities function. It's the knowledge you need to start making informed decisions that change your cash flow pattern from the rat race into the rich flow. You must invest in your financial education before you invest your money. Kiyosaki says, the single most powerful asset we all have is our mind. If it is trained well, it can create enormous wealth. Kiyosaki then gives us a mantra that sounds simple but carries profound financial weight. Mind your own business. Now, this doesn't mean being nosy or quitting your job tomorrow. Instead, it's a crucial separation of your profession from your true business. Your profession is what generates your paycheck. You might be an excellent doctor, manager, or accountant, but your business, the thing you focus on building every day, should be your asset column. The fundamental error of the middle class is spending an entire lifetime focused solely on climbing the professional ladder, chasing a higher salary, and neglecting their asset column altogether. The strategy is to view your job as the cash source, the funding mechanism you use to diligently acquire assets, things like real estate, stocks, or businesses, that will eventually generate enough income to set you free. Until your asset column is robust enough to fully cover your monthly expenses, you should absolutely keep your day job, but treat every spare dollar as ammunition to build your real business.
One of the most powerful insights Kiyosaki shares is the concept of working to learn, not to earn. The poor dad's advice was to specialize, to become extremely good at one thing to maximize earning potential. The rich dad's philosophy, however, was to seek jobs that offer a broad range of skills, even if the starting pay is low. The wealthy understand that success requires a diverse skill set, spanning areas like sales and marketing, communications, accounting, and legal strategy. A high-paying job in a specialized field might give you a big paycheck now, but a job that teaches you how to manage people, sell a product, or understand the flow of money is much more valuable in the long run, because these are the core skills needed to build and operate your own income-generating assets. You're trading immediate income for invaluable financial intelligence, and that's the long-term play. A critical and often controversial point Kiyosaki brings up is that the rich know how to use the power of the corporation and the tax code. He makes it clear that the rules of the game are set up differently for employees versus corporations. An employee earns, then pays taxes, and then spends what's left over. A corporation, however, earns, then is legally allowed to spend on business expenses like education, travel, or vehicles, and then pays taxes only on the net income that remains. This simple difference in cash flow sequence, spending first, then being taxed on the balance, gives the owners of corporations a massive and entirely legal advantage in growing their wealth faster. Kiyosaki encourages readers to learn the rules of the game so they can legally play on the same field as the wealthy. A major hurdle Kiyosaki identifies for most people is overcoming the fear of losing money. He points out that the fear of financial loss is so paralyzing that it often keeps people from ever even entering the game. They hold on to the safe job, they save money conservatively, and they entirely miss out on opportunities for genuine wealth creation. The rich dad taught him that winners are not afraid of losing. They understand that failure is a vital part of the learning process and that every mistake contains an expensive lesson. The poor and middle class are often motivated by this fear, choosing security over freedom, while the rich actively manage risk, view mistakes as data points, and are willing to take calculated risks to achieve significant returns.
Rich Dad believed that the two primary emotions that drive most people's financial decisions are fear and greed. The fear of not having money forces them to stick to a secure job and a small paycheck, while greed often manifests as the desire for a bigger paycheck, leading to the rat race. The middle class is often caught in this trap. The fear of bills causes them to work harder, and when they get a raise, the greed for luxuries pushes them to spend the extra income on liabilities, a bigger house, a nicer car, which in turn increases their expenses and resets the cycle of fear. Kiyosaki teaches that the truly wealthy manage these emotions, recognizing that genuine intelligence should be used to solve financial problems, not emotional reactions. You must be able to think, not just react, when money is involved. A major principle that helps the rich escape the rat race is the art of paying yourself first.
Kiyosaki explains that when the wealthy receive income, their first priority is to allocate money to their asset column. They invest before paying any bills or buying anything else. His poor dad, like most people, paid his expenses and debts first, hoping to have money left over to save or invest, which rarely happened. Rich Dad taught that this discipline forces you to become financially stronger. If you pay yourself first and then find yourself short on money for bills, this scarcity actually forces you to become more resourceful. It pushes you to find new ways to generate income rather than just passively accepting the situation and dipping into your savings or investments. Following on the heels of financial discipline, Kiyosaki emphasizes the need to overcome cynicism and avoid emotional decision-making. When investment opportunities arise, the poor and middle class often let fear and doubt take over. They use phrases like, "What if I lose my money?" or "It's too risky," which Kiyosaki calls the Chicken Little mentality. The rich, however, ask, "How can I make this work? And what is my downside risk and how can I mitigate it?" They focus on what they can control and the education needed to reduce risk. This mental fortitude, the ability to assess a financial situation logically rather than emotionally, is a hallmark of financial intelligence and is necessary for spotting and executing on good deals that others overlook out of fear.
Rich Dad believed in what he called financial intelligence, or financial IQ. This isn't about being book smart or having a PhD. It's about the ability to solve financial problems. He taught that people who are financially successful aren't necessarily the ones who earn the most. They are the ones who can create money, protect their money, budget it, and leverage it. For example, when most people see a problem like a housing crisis, they see disaster. A person with high financial IQ sees an opportunity to buy deeply discounted real estate assets. This intelligence is a combination of 4 core skills: accounting, which is financial literacy; investing, which is the science of money, making money; understanding markets, which is the science of supply and demand; and the law, which is knowing how to use legal entities like corporations for protection. This ties into another major takeaway: the concept of the difference between being rich and being wealthy. Kiyosaki makes a crucial distinction here. Being rich is often defined by a high current income, a big salary, or a massive year-end bonus. But if that income stops, the rich person's lifestyle crumbles because they are still dependent on their labor. Being wealthy, however, is defined by time. Kiyosaki defines wealth as the number of days you can survive financially if you stopped working today. This is calculated by dividing your passive income by your daily expenses. The goal isn't just to make more money, it's to build an asset column so strong that the passive cash flow generated by your assets fully exceeds your living expenses, meaning you are no longer obligated to work for survival. One of the most profound behavioral lessons in the book is about the need for resourcefulness over dependence. Kiyosaki's poor dad would often say, "I can't afford that," which is Rich Dad immediately banned. Rich Dad taught that saying, "I can't afford that," shuts down your brain and stops all possibility. A financially intelligent person instead asks the question, "How can I afford that?" This question opens the mind to possibilities, forces you to think creatively, and pushes you to generate new ideas for income or savings. It's a subtle but powerful shift from a fixed victim mentality to a dynamic, problem-solving one. The wealthy don't have problems, they have opportunities to sharpen their financial intelligence by figuring out solutions. Kiyosaki also dedicates a significant portion of the book to the importance of networking and finding mentors. His rich dad wasn't just a knowledgeable person, he was a guide who actively taught and corrected him. The poor and middle class tend to surround themselves with people who reinforce their current, often limiting financial views. People who say, "Don't take risks," or "Invest conservatively." The rich deliberately associate with financially successful people who challenge them, share high-quality investment information, and model the behavior of wealth creation. Your net worth is often highly correlated with your network. And by spending time with people who play a bigger financial game, you naturally raise your own financial IQ and exposure to opportunities. Kiyosaki also highlights the critical difference between saving and investing. While his poor dad emphasized the traditional advice of saving money, putting it in a bank account where it earns minimal interest, Rich Dad viewed this as financially weak, particularly in an age of inflation. The rich understand that saving alone is a losing game because the purchasing power of their money erodes over time. Instead, they focus relentlessly on investing that money into assets that not only beat inflation, but also generate cash flow and appreciate in value. The key is turning every dollar you keep into a financial employee that works 24 hours a day for you rather than letting it sit idle and lose value. Kiyosaki also tackles the huge psychological wall of losing money on deals. His rich dad taught him that most people are so fixated on the small losses, the deals that go sour, that they completely miss the bigger picture. The wealthy understand that every failed deal, every setback, is an opportunity for priceless learning. They see the cost of a mistake not as a loss, but as the tuition fee for their financial education. The middle class sees a mistake as a reason to stop trying. The rich see it as essential feedback and a step closer to the deals that will yield massive success. This acceptance of loss as a learning mechanism is what separates the winners from those perpetually playing it safe.
Rich Dad also emphasized the concept of creating money rather than just working for it. Most people believe that money is a limited resource provided by an employer or the government. The wealthy, however, see money as an idea, a product of financial intelligence and creativity. Kiyosaki demonstrates this by showing how a financially astute person can identify an undervalued property, use creativity to add value, maybe through rezoning or renovating, and then leverage the bank's money to purchase it, effectively creating profit and cash flow where none existed before. This ability to spot opportunities and structure deals is the ultimate goal of financial education. It teaches you to invent money using your mind, not just your hands. Rich Dad understood the power of leveraging debt, which is a concept that terrifies the poor and middle class. His poor dad always said, "Pay off your debts and live debt-free." Rich Dad, however, taught the difference between good debt and bad debt. Bad debt is borrowing money to buy liabilities, like using a credit card for consumer goods. Good debt is borrowing money to acquire cash-flowing assets. The rich use the bank's money, leverage, to purchase investment properties or businesses that generate a return greater than the cost of the loan. This means their own capital is preserved and their return on investment is infinite, while the asset is effectively paid for by the tenants or customers. It's all about using other people's money wisely. A major differentiating factor Kiyosaki highlights is the willingness of the rich to take calculated risks. The poor and middle class often use the idea of risk as an excuse to do nothing. They want ironclad guarantees before they act. But Kiyosaki argues that in the real world of finance, opportunities don't wait for guarantees. The rich dad taught him to differentiate between gambling and informed investing. Gambling is throwing money at a deal and praying. Informed investing is researching, educating yourself, and understanding the variables to mitigate the risks involved. The wealthy don't avoid risk, they manage it. And they know that the biggest risk of all is often playing it too safe and being left behind.
A major element that the Rich Dad system prioritizes is investing in knowledge and systems, not just products. Kiyosaki points out that the middle class will save up money to buy a product, a stock, a car, or a piece of furniture. The rich, however, invest in a system, which could be a business structure, an educational seminar, or simply the time and effort to find an excellent investment team, like a great accountant, lawyer, or real estate agent. Their greatest investment isn't the property itself. It's the specialized team and financial education that allows them to acquire assets efficiently, legally, and profitably. This investment in the system is what allows their money-making machine to operate smoothly, generating cash flow without requiring their constant personal input. Another vital piece of the Rich Dad's philosophy is the importance of creating your own job security rather than depending on an employer or the government. The Poor Dad believed in the security of a long-term job with benefits and a pension. Rich Dad saw this as the ultimate financial risk, because the moment an employer controls your income, they control your life. The truly wealthy understand that security comes from their asset column and their financial intelligence. When your passive income can cover your expenses, you are the most secure person in the room, regardless of what happens in the job market, because you have built your own safety net. You own the source of your security. A major and recurring theme is the necessity of overcoming sloth and laziness. Kiyosaki isn't talking about physical laziness, but mental laziness, the unwillingness to think, research, or actively look for deals. He observes that people get so busy with their job, their bills, and their daily routine that they become mentally exhausted and never find the time to invest in their financial education or seek out opportunities. They become passive consumers instead of active creators of wealth. Rich Dad's solution to this mental laziness was to cultivate a little bit of greed, the desire for a richer, more comfortable future that is strong enough to motivate you to learn and act. That desire should push you out of your comfort zone and force you to allocate time to building your asset column.
An equally important and often overlooked lesson is the necessity of sales and marketing skills. Kiyosaki makes the point that his poor dad was a brilliant, highly educated man who struggled financially because he couldn't effectively sell his ideas or his value. Rich Dad, on the other hand, taught that being able to sell is a core skill of wealth. It's not just about selling a product, it's about selling your vision, communicating the value of your asset, and negotiating deals. If you can't effectively communicate why your investment is valuable or negotiate favorable terms, your financial intelligence will only take you so far. The ability to market and sell your assets is the difference between a great idea and a successful income-generating business. The ultimate point of the entire Rich Dad philosophy is achieving financial freedom, or as Kiyosaki calls it, being out of the rat race. This is not about being a millionaire. It's the point where the income generated by your assets, your rental properties, your stocks, your businesses, is greater than your total monthly expenses. When this happens, you are no longer financially dependent on a job, a boss, or a paycheck. You are truly free to use your time as you wish, focusing on further investment, creativity, and self-fulfillment, rather than working to survive. This freedom is the end goal of financial literacy, calculated risk-taking, and minding your own business. This comprehensive overview of Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad challenges the conventional wisdom about wealth and employment. It's a powerful invitation to take control of your financial destiny, moving your focus from earning a salary to diligently acquiring income-producing assets. The foundational takeaway is the necessity of financial intelligence, the ability to understand and manipulate the systems that govern money. We encourage you to begin today by assessing your own cash flow and committing to lifelong financial education. If you found this summary valuable and are ready to apply these principles, please give this video a like, subscribe for more in-depth financial analyses, and share your most significant takeaway from Kiyosaki's philosophy in the comments below. Thank you for tuning in.